From boardroom meetings to bedtime stories, Coffee in the Barn explores the delicate dance of balancing the demands of our professional lives with the joys and responsibilities of being moms. Join us each week as we discuss the latest trends in agribusiness, share insightful interviews with industry experts, and sprinkle in some heartfelt anecdotes about the humorous and heartwarming moments that come with being a working mom in agriculture. Welcome to this week's episode of Coffee in the Barn with Casey and Morgan. Today we're going to be discussing how artificial intelligence and different AI tools help us do our jobs every day, and also tools that are used within the barn for producers and farm managers to help take better care of their pigs. Hey Casey, how's it going?
Well, it's going. I am getting ready for World Pork, checking off boxes, arranging meetings. I can't remember, Morgan, if this is live before World Pork or after, but that's how it's going. How about you? Entering summer and being pregnant. How's it going?
Oh, I don't even feel like I'm pregnant. I'm in the second trimester. It's all sunshines and rainbows now.
A few more months, she'll be the grumpy Morgan.
My mom has used the phrase that she likes me better when I'm pregnant. She thinks I'm happier and more laid back.
One of your superpowers that I absolutely love about working with you is no matter how deep of shit we're in, or you're in, or how wrong our day went, you always laugh. And if you could see her on video, she's smiling, okay? You always make light of it. You're always positive. You're always optimistic for the brighter future. And you don't relish in your misery.
Oh, I mean, after this week, today has been the best day. After the sickness that has wreaked havoc on our kids the last 4 days, today is looking pretty up and up. But yes, I do like to see the positive in things. And I feel like as parents, you really honestly never, every day is different, kind of like raising animals. You never know what's going to happen every day. Every day is different. And just like kids and animals, like you just never know what you're going to get. And you just kind of need to go with the flow and laugh about things.
Yeah, I was going to say this morning, we're trying to get a routine. So you'll have to ask me in a few more episodes if we've kept with it, Morgan. But Arthur woke up. His dad set his alarm. He actually woke up at 5 o'clock and dressed himself, was ready to go down in the gym. I forgot to change my alarm clock because I really didn't think he'd get up at 5 o'clock, but he did. And he's calling, Mom, are you ready to go at 5:04? And I'm like, oh, crap. Yeah, give me a couple minutes. And we did go work out, but poor guy, he's an easy person who can vomit. And he worked him out too hard. He came up and puked. I said, well, that means that you had a good workout, bud. So we're doing it right.
At least he was puking because of he worked hard and he's old enough that he can make it to the toilet, because a 3-year-old has not grasped that concept yet. And we had quite the projectile room explosion, both ends, for multiple days.
Not anything I'd enjoy. But we've had some different content coming out. It may sound crazy, people. Get with us. We're going to have a plan. We have an amazing podcast manager now behind us, Benter, and she's getting everything organized so we can get our crap together too. But she said, you want to talk about toolboxes, and we've talked about tools and lists and different techniques that help us stay organized in previous episodes. And last week, we discussed our physical toolboxes as professionals. And today we want to talk more about, you mentioned the software tools, and you said AI. Let's just go back and just AI is part of it, and it learns from our behaviors, and that's why we call it artificial intelligence, but it's really software. I would say growing up, this is my evolution of software. And I think this could set the stage really well, is I'm more that Gen X generation, right on the cusp of millennials. When I first started writing, I did use a typewriter. And I remember, I think for my junior or senior year, I don't know if it was my birthday or Christmas, my parents bought me a word processor. So I had a ability to type, and then I could print it out when I was all done, and I could go edit it inside of it. I did have computers at school, but it's not something we had at home. To fast forward, use my graduation money, bought my first laptop. Freshman year in high school, I had to take a computer class on learning how to use like all the Microsoft stuff, but also developing a web page, which was more MS-DOS. So had that experience to now fast forward in my career, I had a team who helped me develop my own digital data app that I use for research and dashboards that integrate other website informations like the USDA corn price and my research data, and I can present my data and then analytics with R, Python. I like to use Jump, SAS, all integrated into that. So that has really been, and we're talking about less than 30 years, less than 25 years, that's all happened in my life. And I think that sets the stage of where we should talk about software, and AI is the new buzzword, but AI would not work without programs and software behind it, right? Computer programming. And so I think we need to just put that in perspective, that it's not this artificial being out there. It takes developers to write the code so it can be smart.
Yeah, I think, I grew up with dial-up, where if my 90s babies remember, you couldn't be on the white or on the landline phone and on the internet at the same exact time, and you have the dial-up ringtone.
And it'd take 5 minutes for a website to load.
Yeah. So, I grew up at the end of that era, I would say, and then, didn't get an actual like wireless phone until I was in high school. Started with a good old track phone they had to load minutes onto. But I think it's been interesting just how technology has evolved over the last, just in my lifespan within the last 20 years.
It's amazing because I can even age myself further, Morgan. You talked about dial-up internet. I had a party line phone, and as a kid, I used to love listening to my neighbors' conversations, and then sometimes I get myself in trouble because I would giggle, and they'd be like, "Who's on there?"
Yeah, my grandparents, I remember them telling stories about that as well. But it's interesting how even during college, and somebody made a comment about this a couple of weeks ago that I was meeting with, that when you're in training as a swine nutritionist, depending on the type of program you're working with, like when I was in grad school, I learned how to formulate diets on Excel. Then when I transitioned into the field, there's Concept 5, Best Mix, Amino Science. There's different field-based formulation programs as well as computer-based formulation programs. And so I've had to learn how to use each one of those individually and in combination. So there's been a learning curve to that as well. And what's really unique about these formulation softwares, even on the dairy side, there's Dalex. There's quite a few different ones, but these formulas, you can put in the nutrient requirements for that pig or animal at whatever age range they're at or growth phase, and it will take the cost of the ingredients and least cost a formula for you. So you're making sure that you're feeding the animal as economically as possible and still meeting their nutrient requirements. So learning how to manipulate and play with those programs to adjust the diets the way you need to has been really interesting for me to learn, over the last few years coming out of grad school and then now in my current role.
Yeah, you didn't have to start out with the MS-DOS based Brill systems. MSU had their own MS-DOS type of formulation software, and it used to be a requirement for a nutritionist or a formulator to have Brill experience because that was the first, most robust, least cost formulation system we had. But I did learn how to do nutrition on paper, right? So we had to hand calculate that out, which is, it's a lot easier to push a button, but you can create a lot of mistakes by just clicking that button and not checking that you have everything set right. But what I've noticed, because I've had to switch depending on the company and what they were going to buy for me, I've had to go through a lot of those different programs. Today I'm on AFOS, and what I've noticed, not that that's like my favorite, but what I do like about these newer systems coming out is there a lot of them are cloud-based, so I can share formulas better with my colleagues. But because they're cloud-based, they work just like Excel or different things, so they're easier to navigate than the traditional systems used to be. So that is the advantage that I think they've taken that requirement off for formulators. Hey, you don't need to know Braille or this, because if you understand the basic concept formulation, these new tools make it easy to learn the system better than they did in the past. And every unique software program, regardless of formulation or whatever you use, has its own unique quirks to it. But curious, have you worked in your formulation software? Do you have logarithms programmed in there to optimize growth or anything?
Currently, we do not, but we're in the works of building that into our formulation software.
So the coolest thing I found, and I'm going to give a shout out to Nutreco Trow, and they've had this for a long time, is they actually have a sustainability model built into their formulations. And I think that's amazing that we can now set up these different programs in our formulation tools, not just to be least cost, but best cost, but also depending on our KPI, we can drive that. So a lot of integrators will have KPIs on feed efficiency, growth performance, or body weight, depending on the market conditions, what they're trying to target. They can formulate different for those animals. But, I really do love how Nutreco and them have invested in sustainability, and getting to see that. I saw the beginning of it. I would love to see what it looks like today. And I've talked to a few of those guys at Midwest of getting them on to talk about it, the updates that they've done to their software on the podcasts. But phenomenal opportunity now that we can change our KPIs and our key drivers to go beyond just growth performance.
Oh, yeah, I think that will be one of the major key things that will set nutrition companies apart in the coming future is how do you feed an animal economically as well as sustainability wise. And
well, I think another thing we're not even talking about, Morgan, is blockchain. How can you integrate blockchain into it so I know every ounce of what's going into my animal and my consumer knows that on the pork chop label? That's my vision of AI and tech and swine is like I should be able to take my phone and scan a QR code and it should tell me exactly how much feed that pig ate, what my carbon emission is for buying that pork chop, etc.
That's very futuristic. It's just a lot of, you have independent parties, public and private entities, as well as political. There's so many cobwebs of things and information that would need to be gathered to develop something like that. I think it would be amazing to get there.
Amazing, but who's going to get paid and who gets the piece of the pie has always been, as I've found developing my own software, getting some of these companies to play ball with me, and I'm not going to call them out and be rude, but if I'm not a big player, they don't want to talk to me, or they see me as a threat, so they don't want to help me create APIs to different dataware. And that has been something I've talked about a lot, to really harness the new era of artificial intelligence. The biggest stop point or block we have is integration of different data sources. Yeah. And that comes into formulation, right? We don't have it integrated of how many miles was that corn hauled? How much diesel did that truck use? Did it, was it an electric truck? So that when we talk about really integrating that of the future for nutrition customers is how are you going to integrate that in with your transportation, your ingredient supply to really even calculate that more? Because ingredient A from a CO2 input may be better, but I have to haul it half across the world. Now my American corn is just as, if not more sustainable, that I bought from my neighbor next door.
Right. And then it's like, okay, now this information is available. Who owns it? Who can use it? There's a lot of uncharted territories that I don't think we've even tapped into yet to figure out how to navigate, all this extra information that we're now able to gather.
Well, let's talk about a couple good software programs that are out there that I have talked about a lot and have had on the Real P3, and I keep watching them. And I think there's some cool software that we've developed that's trying to break down those data silos.
Yeah, I think on the farm side, on the south side specifically, we have PigFlow is a really neat technology that we have available to producers that helps not only the farm manager, but also the farm employees track the sows that are either being bred or are farrowing and to know, okay, this sow I checked at 2 p.m. and this is what I did for her. This is how many piglets she had at that time. And it kind of takes the extra thinking out of managing the pig. This is how many piglets each sow has. If I've had to do any intervention, such as medicating or helping her with her farrowing, here's what I did and at what time. And it's like a triage for most important for those employees at that time. One of the really cool tools that we have available to us on the sow farm specifically is called PigFlow. And it's an app that you can download on the farm phone that helps farm managers and employees track the progress of sows, whether during their farrowing or if they need to be bred or during their gestation process. You can see, have they had any medical interventions? Do they need to be treated? It helps kind of triage the sows so that the employees make sure that the animals are getting treated in a timely manner, or if those that need further assistance, whether that's during the farrowing process or they're lame or some sort of further assistance than just making sure that they ate and drank that day. It kind of helps prioritize those most important animals versus the ones that are doing okay.
Well, that's a good example. We have something similar but different on the wean to finish side called Every Pig. And I think this is even just as cool because what I like about Every Pig is, how I talked about how in the last episode, doing necropsies and sharing with the vet and using FaceTime and pictures and things. Well, the Every Pig app allows you to communicate with your vet and the different growers immediately. So if a veterinarian sees a disease outbreak in multiple farms in the same area, it can intervene faster. So it's very similar. So we have two really great, to me, top-notch software applications for the swine industry out there as great examples.
Yeah, and I also want to highlight too, even the amount of technology that's coming available for the swine industry and to help producers manage their pigs more efficiently and just even like making sure their time, it's either time or money. So can you invest some money into management software or visual audio cameras to make sure that that feed said it was going to get delivered at 2 p.m. Do those pigs have feed? How's the ammonia level within the barns? What about the temperature? A lot of the barns nowadays have alarm systems that if for some reason the water gets turned off or the pigs aren't drinking the amount of water that they normally do, electricity goes out, the generator has to come on, the ammonia levels or temperature levels within the barn are off, barn managers will get alarm notifications to their phones, to a pager, to let them know that something is off that barn wherever those pigs are at. And on the dairy side too, each facility has their own system on how they do things.
All of ag has that now if we have animals inside barns. The controllers are just phenomenal upgrades and the sensors and the alarms is allowing us to do more remotely. As I say, prevent fires instead of putting out fires.
Yeah, and it's really hard. And I mean, given the labor shortages within the agriculture industry with in general, is it's hard to you can't expect an employee to be at that farm 24/7 It's just unrealistic. And now we have less employees managing more animals, I think we ever have. And so, how do we provide those managers and farm staff with the proper tools to help them maximize their time at those facilities, as well as provide peace of mind to them, to making sure that when they're not there, those pigs have feed and water and everything that they need to grow properly.
No, I would definitely agree. And I had a conversation just yesterday, and I've been hearing this that so we work in the animal nutrition and health space. I heard venture capital will not invest in physical products anymore. The only companies getting funding in the agriculture space or even our space, animal nutrition space, is software and AI. And I could use some examples of, vertical farming. I can't remember the company's name, but massively funded venture capital, and they went bankrupt because they didn't have the tech, the systems, and the processes, or even probably the market potential that they thought, and it didn't work out. And I think that's interesting to even see over on venture capital's front that the heavy investment in software and AI today for agriculture and other businesses.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how, I mean, there's technology today that we can monitor like pig movements. So a lot of the ways that we can tell if an animal is starting to get sick or is sick, especially in those group housed pens, is they're going to the feeder less, they're going to the water less, they're eating less, they're just getting up and moving around less. And so we have cameras now that, you can place over the pen and it will track each pig individually. And after a certain amount of time, it will learn the natural movements of this pig, how many times it gets up and eats and drinks every single day, where it normally lays. And the AI can create this tag for each individual animal within that pen, and it can notify the farm manager that, this pig hasn't gotten up and eaten within 12 hours. You should probably check on this pig. Or it hasn't moved within a certain number of hours.
Tech is what's also helping us, Morgan, handle more animals with less people,
Mm-hmm.
or definitely will. Because let's face it, nobody wants to work in agriculture like they used to. It's a challenge that we face.
Yeah, and it's going to continue to be a challenge that our industry is going to have to embrace.
Yeah.
But yeah, technology isn't cheap, but the more producers that implement it, they're cheaper it will get, I guess. But those are just some of the tools on the farm side. Casey, what kind of tools do you use AI wise within your day-to-day tasks?
Well, I want to say this, if you're going to work with international customers, or if this is kind of like your goal to work internationally and maybe not in your country specific, there are some apps I'm going to recommend for you to have on your phone. So if you're working with people in China or Asia, WeChat is kind of an important one. All other international, especially South America and Europe, WhatsApp. So this is really been a game changer of communicating with international people. I even have my employees, we don't use our phone, but we call through WhatsApp. We text through WhatsApp. Those are two applications for connection to humans that aren't business apps. And I know we've talked about different things in the past, but I would really recommend it's not AI, but it's software applications that you can communicate with anybody in the world. Those are probably the two easiest ways to talk to people around the world. Do you have any other social apps that you use to talk to people, like Snapchat or anything?
No, I don't really talk a lot with international people at this time, but prior to, I was using WhatsApp, and I think that was the only one.
So I think that's something to note, getting familiar with those applications. You can get overloaded with a number of apps on your phone for business and personal life, but it's just the nature of the world we live in. So I did mention I had my company invested in developing my own digital data entry app and tying that to living dashboards. So I do have that experience of doing software development and the problems that come from that. I'm glad I went through that process. I learned that I don't want to be a software company, if that makes sense. But I'm also not going to let that tool die because I think it has advantages as I serve more of my clients and managing them. Some of the other tools we've talked about in the past, I have a meal app, planning app, Walmart's app so I can do grocery pickup. I would recommend some type of project management app, even if your company doesn't have it or require one for you to keep your life organized. Sometimes you can do that in tasks and Teams and Outlook, however you want to do that. There's so many different things out there. I know I mentioned in the past we've gone to Trello and Slack for our management because we can add in outside people the easiest compared to other applications. But I've been using the crap out of ChatGPT and I pay for ChatGPT. So I even get the add-on bonus and they just had a new release update and I still don't know what it all does compared to ChatGPT 4, but my team says it's invaluable to how I use that.
Yeah, I don't think I have any other tools that I use day to day besides my lists. I don't think I'll ever get away from the good old pen and paper.
No. But I should also say we're talking about our industry, so the information port gateway, they are trying to harness AI and integrate the chat GPT functions into some things instead of just having articles about different technical information that new people in the industry might want. They are helping develop a chatbot, and they're doing that right now with the reproduction guide. Hopefully, I'm not getting in trouble for saying that, but I think there's some interesting things. If AI scares you and ChatGPT scares you and you're going to replace your job, no, I think it's all going to help make you a better employee. But there's nothing wrong with pen and paper. For my birthday wish list, I want the pen that's a real pen that also copies it to digital for me. So
Oh,
that's
yeah. I've seen those tools. I mean, one that I also use is OneNote. I think I've mentioned this before. Like,
yeah.
I use a OneNote to like track customer notes. Like, whenever we have a call, I'll type up all the notes within OneNote. So, organized by customer name or project or topic. And then if I just need to reference something really quick, I just search for a keyword and it helps me find things 10 times faster instead of sitting here trying to rattle my brain. I mean, I feel like we're on information overload every single day now with all the different things that we have to do and see, given all the apps on our phone and emails and noises that come from our computer. So, being able to reference things relatively quickly, OneNote has been pretty instrumental in allowing me to do that.
I'd agree. OneNote is a game changer if you can't afford to buy a lot of different apps. But if you're starting out from somebody who's been working full time for over 20 years, some type of database or paper storage, right? I had to start out with paper copies, and I think I've talked about in the past, purged my dissertation and master's degree drawers of my filing cabinets. And having a system to track your references and Mike Bedford always did this so well. And every week he used to send out 10 articles out of his database and share some thoughts because he'd even have typed up notes on those papers. And that was such a gift of somebody who doesn't have the history or knowledge or wanting to learn about a topic. And, one week it would be on phytase. The other week he'd send something out on xylanase or something. And that was a gift to me to see his database, but that also, I didn't learn from him then. I wish I would have going in between companies and my files and those types of papers and stuff. I just recommend if you're really tech savvy to create or get pay for RefWorks, EndNote, use OneNote, use SharePoint, something to create a database for you of references that you can make it searchable and easier to find information, because that paper from 20 years ago may become relevant again next year or a different project.
Right.
So that is my one regret I have in my career, that I did not use my super organizational skills better in the beginning and thinking I could just find files easily in my life. Those are some software-based AI tools for you all. Well, have a great week, everybody. And as we said in the last episode, we are giving away some Amazon gift cards. So make sure you go to the show notes, click on that form, and get signed up for our newsletter. Get signed up for that Amazon gift card so you can buy some cool tools that you've been wanting to try out, potentially bags, whatever you need to make yourself, elevate yourself, and be more prepared for life and work. Until next time.
Thanks.